Happy New Year 2026. The new season of the podcast will start on January 16 with our Q&A season. There's still time to leave me email or voicemail with any questions if you are a bookkeeper or a business owner who is working with one. And feel free to leave me voicemail, fan mail, or email at any time for any reason. Happy tax season.
Paul Rosenblum is a bookkeeper, not an accountant or a CPA. Although the information in this podcast comes from professionals, it's meant to give you enough knowledge about these subjects to have a meaningful dialogue with your tax preparer about bookkeeping and taxes.
It's almost 1099 day as this episode goes live, and I hope that all of the 1099s that you have to create are almost done and the process wasn't too stressful this year. Now, the next phase of tax season is just beginning. For bookkeepers, it's getting the books not just completed for the previous year, but also actually going through the January transactions to make sure that any paper checks that were written in December of 2025 that could have been missed, that weren't part of the 1099s just created, have been cashed in January of 2026. Remember, it's not the date that the check was cashed that's important, it's the date that they were issued. Now it's a matter of completing everything and getting the books to the tax preparer. In theory, the bookkeeper season ends before April, maybe even as early as right after March 15 deadline for partnerships and S-Corp filings, but it seems that is never like that for me. There are always things that clients or tax preparers are asking me to do at the last minute. I'm Paul Rosenblum. I love the questions that are coming in on the website in voicemail. Keep them coming. And talking about that, this leads me to the next question in this season. This question is from Andrea. Another great question. The microphone is temporarily yours, Andrea.
Hi, Paul. This is Andrea. I'm calling from Los Osos, California, and I have a question about bookkeeping for my side business. I sell on eBay, Poshmark, and Facebook Marketplace. It's a side business, so I don't have a lot of time for bookkeeping. There's costs involved, like purchasing, yard sale, purchasing things there, fuel to drive, laundry, clean up things. And I'm wondering about a really efficient way to keep track of that business so that when it comes to tax time, I'm ready to put that into my tax forms for my accountant. Thank you.
I haven't had firsthand experience with Poshmark, Facebook Marketplace, and eBay from a selling viewpoint, but I am very familiar with Etsy, and I'm sure these third parties work in a very similar way. If you are keeping monthly books for your side business, which you should be, there are monthly reports that you can pull from all of these companies mentioned. In Etsy, the reports are downloadable to Excel, and they have columns set up for the total sale, and then a column for each of their fees that they charge you. Per transaction fees is one column, shipping is another column, sales tax, if applicable, would be another column, and any other fees taken away from the actual sale of the product that you sell. In other words, all the numbers are there. A monthly entry via a journal entry would be a credit to your sales category, a credit to your sales tax category, and a debit to all other charges that deduct from the actual sale, such as per transaction fee, shipping, restocking fee for returns, and all the others. This would be a monthly entry on the last day of each month. You can just make one entry for the entire year on 12/31 of that current year, and even though it would skew the monthly sales, the annual sales would be correct since you would be running an annual report in each of these third-party sales platforms. I do have some clients that I do the bookkeeping for their main company, but they do the bookkeeping for their side gig, and they just run the reports from the third-party sales platform and hand them over directly to their tax preparer for them to make the adjustment entries. Andrea, if you listen to the Chart of Accounts episode, season 3, number 8 and number 9, that will give you an idea of how to set up all of the accounts or categories. Being an online business, there aren't going to be a lot of deductions, but I can name the ones that come to mind here. Any computer and printer that you use for the side business, even if you purchased it for personal use, can now be in the books of your side gig and get depreciated starting at the market value when you first started using it for business. If you use your car to pick up merchandise to sell, then you should take an odometer reading to get reimbursed 68 cents per mile in 2025, 72.5 cents per mile in 2026 if you use the car for business. If you have a dedicated space in your home or apartment that is used for business, take a square footage measurement of that space. If you have 1,000 square feet for the apartment and 100 square feet is used for your office, then you can take 10% of the mortgage or rent, for one example, as a business deduction, as well as internet costs and utilities, still at 10%. Inventory can be tricky. Do you actually have inventory, or do you purchase the inventory only after you have an online order? If you do have inventory, I count the inventory and give the accountant or tax preparer a purchase value at the beginning of 2025 for this example, and an ending balance at the end of 2025. That is one adjusting entry in your books that they can do. And part of that entry is to adjust the difference in those two numbers into the cost of goods section, which will, in turn, change your profit and loss. I know you said that you don't have a lot of time to put into this bookkeeping wise, but unfortunately, small businesses should be taken as seriously with bookkeeping as large businesses are. By the way, I might be able to fit you in and do the bookkeeping for you. Let's talk. And Andrea, you should have a separate bank account and credit card for the business. So if ever looked at by other eyes, they can easily understand what is going on financially. So inventory needs to be entered into the system, even if it's just a starting and an ending balance. Transportation expenses associated with the business, seminars, webinars, office expenses such as paper and printer ink, and as mentioned, all of the cost of goods associated with the third parties. Shipping costs, if any, that you incur to get the items that you sell or to send directly to the customer, and as mentioned, your computer and printer. If you have business cards for that business, they would be 100% deductible too. In my experience, online businesses don't have a whole lot of deductions because there is no office that people can visit or a storefront that people can come into, and you don't have meals with prospective clients or current ones. However, all website expenses are 100% deductible for any business, especially online ones. An online business is a pretty low maintenance business, hence less deductions than most. So be prepared to pay taxes on a larger profit since you have less deductions. Since it is a side gig, you might want to take most of the profit and put that money into an IRA SEP to lower your liability to the IRS. But talk to your tax preparer about that, since if you have W-2 income and other things going on, one has to look at the big picture with all of that information. such as your tax preparer. I hope that helps, Andrea, and thanks so much for that question. Keep the questions coming, folks. This is a big purpose of this podcast, to answer questions from bookkeepers and from business owners. Don't be shy. Leave me voicemail at the website. The link is in the episode notes. There are two tax preparers who I've worked with for years, and they have announced that this is their last season before retirement. It tempts me since they're right around my age, but no, I'm going to keep doing this for a while, or until I just don't enjoy it anymore. I am still cutting down on clients, but I've taken on a few new people after very careful vetting. So there are fewer clients, but less stress. That sounds like a good combination to me. Since I'm recording this at 7 o'clock in the morning on a Monday morning, it's now time for me to get to work. More dry eye, more eye strain, but more of finishing the jigsaw puzzle for companies, which is called bookkeeping. Which leads us to the next episode, a question that involves what we as bookkeepers can do for clients that help them plan and make good business decisions. Let's turn the page to February. Almost. I'm Paul Rosenblum.